Well, we're now actually going to do some tests on you. Now, please don't get embarrassed by that, because we're not going to actually ask you to reveal your scores. These are purely for you to get a baseline on your memory, okay? And I've got a stopwatch here, and I'm going to show you each of the tests for about 20 seconds, well, the first few tests for 20 seconds. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you a list of 20 nouns randomly selected by a computer, and they're coming up on the screen now. And just look at them. Please don't make any written notes, because that is kind of not what we want you to do. We want to internalize, not externalize your memory, okay? So here we go, and your 20 seconds starts now. Have a look at these 20 nouns and see how many you can remember. As I say, don't worry, I'm not going to say stand up and give us your list, because that would be too cruel for words. Okay, we've got another 5-6 seconds to go. Okay, that's 20 seconds. Right. Now, I wonder how many you can remember. My guess is, and again, I'm not going to ask you, my guess is you could probably remember things like aeroplane and probably perhaps dunce's cap, and maybe at the end of the list you can remember something like oak trees, catapults, television, stuff like that. And that is commonly what happens when you're given a list like that. It's what we call the primacy and recency effect. You remember best what you hear first and what you hear last. And the greatest interference of memory occurs in the middle. And that's why professional speakers are sometimes told that you should tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And that's kind of a three structure for making a presentation to somebody. You start off by saying, this is what we're going to be covering in this next 10, 15 minutes. Then you cover it, and at the end you recap. And this will help the primacy and recency effect. Okay, now let's look at another list. Again, this is a kind of a shopping list you might have. And I'm going to give you 20 seconds again. So I'd like you to look at that list. Imagine you're going off down to the Walmart or supermarket or whatever, and you're going to purchase those things. And if you would stop talking, it'd be an awful lot easier for me to remember this list. And you're about 15 seconds in now, and just see how many of those you can actually remember. And that's 20 seconds. Okay. Again, you probably had a primacy and recency effect on that. You can remember the stuff at the beginning of the list, perhaps one or two things at the end. But if I was to offer you 50 quid to give me that list perfectly, forward from the word eggs and or backwards from the last word, I think most of you, my money would be probably quite safe. But rest assured, by the end of this morning, my money would be completely unsafe, because all of you could do all that with the greatest ease. Now let's move on to an area of great social embarrassment for most people, remembering names and faces. I'm going to show you 6 faces and 6 names with them, and then I'm going to show you the same faces in a mixed-up sequence, and see how many of these you can remember. And as you're looking at them, I'll tell you a little bit about this person. Now, this is Jill Stonia, and she's a beautician. Okay, now you've met her at the party. Say, hello, Jill. Hello, Jill. Right, now let's move on to the next one. This is a guy called Frank Paris. Frank Paris is an actor and a male model. And now we're moving on to the third person you're meeting, Betty McDonald, lovely lady, everybody's sort of ideal grandmother, and in fact she used to be a school secretary. Now we're moving on to the next one, Adam Markson. He is actually a high-altitude particle physicist. Okay, and so now we move on to others, and this is Adele Green. Adele Green is a teacher, lovely lady. And finally, we've got Philip Driver, and Philip Driver is now retired, but he used to run his own engineering company. He's the CEO of an engineering company. Okay, now then, I'm going to show you the faces again in a different order, see how many of these you can actually remember, and what their occupations were. You just met him again. You've met him 5 seconds after you've met him at the cocktail party. Right, okay, here's another lovely lady. As I said, everybody's ideal grandmother. There we are with the third lady. Another lady, I mean. There we have this chap. And now we have this chap. And then we have this lady. And that's the end of that. Now, how many, you met them. Hey, I told you about them. Hi, I'm Frank Adamson. I'm a high-altitude particle physicist. Okay, this is a final test, and then you're going to have something completely different. This is a test for numbers. Now, here is a number. This is a 14-decimal number. This, as many of you will recognize, is pi. And probably when you were at school, or almost certainly when you were at school, you dealt with pi, probably not to 14 decimal places. Of course, pi being an irrational number can go on forever, but we've chopped it off at 14 decimals. Supposing I said, right, I'll give you £50 if you can remember this number in 20 seconds and get it perfect, and then perhaps go from the 9 and work forward to the 3. So I'll give you a little bit longer to have a look at that number, because I don't actually think it's going to do you much good at this point. I'm quite willing to be generous on that. Okay, so those are the memory tests. Now we should go back on those memory tests at the end of this morning, and you will be amazed at how easy it is to remember all those things. It'd be something you can impress your friends with, or bore the pants off them, or whatever.